Speaking of Congress, there are some hard deadlines approaching for the Congressional Super Committee, as it is called, for deficit reduction. To tell us more about what this means to both farmers and consumers, we now turn to This Week in Louisiana Agriculture's Avery Davidson with this week's in-studio guest. Avery?
Mike, and one of those hard deadlines did come and go this week. Joining me now to talk a little bit more about the Farm Bill is Louisiana Farm Bureau Associate Commodity Director Kyle McCann. And Kyle, I understand that even though there's quote-unquote hard deadlines, it's Congress. They still kind of do what they want.
Yes, except for a couple of dates in this process that will hold firm. The committees, authorizing committees such as the Ag committees, have some leeway in what time they have to come with their plans. Their biggest deadline is they have to come with something, hopefully by the end of this week, that can be scored by the Congressional Budget Office. And that's the key point. It takes a few weeks for that to occur. But the real driver is November 23rd. The Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction has to vote on a plan, and it has to have scoring with it for all the mandatory programs. So that's the date that ultimately has to be reached, and hopefully we'll see some action out of each committee really soon.
And then there's another date that follows that, December 23rd. What happens then?
Yes, after the November 23rd date and the joint committee is in agreement upon what the approach should be, then they have to make that available to Congress. If they don't make that deadline, it loses its status as a bill that will be voted up or down. And they hope to get that out in time to where by December 23rd, all members of Congress will vote up or down, no amendments, on this deficit reduction plan.
I know you have a lot of dealings with the folks over there in Washington with the American Farm Bureau Federation. What are they saying? What seems to be their take and their stance on what's going on with the Farm Bill?
Well, initially they put out the same of supporting what we currently have, taking what our necessary reductions are, but supporting what we have in place in the 08 Farm Bill and continue that on forward. However, of late, seeing that 9 out of 10 industry organizations have submitted shallow loss type programs and some revenue-based type program rather, they came up with an alternative to that looks at more of the systemic risk or the low end of the risk spectrum to try to totally redo farm programs in that manner.
You mentioned about the shallow loss programs and how it would impact farmers. What about consumers? Because a lot of people think that these payments are made to quote-unquote rich farmers when in reality the Farm Bill, the part going toward farmers, is a very small portion.
Oh yeah, it's the very minute part of the budget, and that's kind of the shame here and all of this deficit reduction. If you don't get real about the large entitlement programs and other spending, you'll never cure that. Ag programs have maintained themselves under budget and continued such, and they are a very small safety net to keep some stability in the farm economy. Absence of that, you'll see more volatility. You'll see times when prices are higher, and you could see other ramifications of what happens when world market conditions change greatly.
And when you consider it's even less than 1% of the total U.S. budget, it seems like a pretty good return on investment.
Oh, it is.
All right, thank you very much. He is Kyle McCann, Associate Commodity Director for the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. So Mike, like we've said before, we will stay on top of this story and make sure and keep you updated on what happens at that meeting on November 23rd. Back to you.
Avery Davidson, thanks.